Picture this scenario, right? You are sitting at your desk, you've got this massive deadline looming over you, and you're just staring at an incredibly complex, highly nuanced document.
Oh, yeah, the kind that just gives you an instant headache.
Exactly. I mean, we're talking pages full of, cultural idioms, specific professional jargon, maybe even a little bit of regional humor sprinkled in there.
Right, the stuff that's famously a nightmare to translate.
Yeah. So you take all of that, you feed the entire thing into a translation interface, you hit enter, and in like exactly 3 seconds, it spits out a flawless sounding result.
Which is just wild to think about.
It feels like absolute magic. And, the relief washes over you for a fraction of a second. But, well, if you sit with that feeling, that relief quickly gives way to a profound, almost existential question.
Yeah.
If the machine is doing all the translation, processing all the nuance, and like making all the linguistic choices in 3 seconds, who are we? I mean, what is your role in that workflow now?
Right. You go from feeling incredibly powerful, like you're wielding this technological magic, to feeling entirely replaceable in the span of a single heartbeat.
It's terrifying.
It really is, because this isn't just a technological upgrade we are dealing with here. It is a fundamental shift in how we process information, and it forces a real psychological reckoning. We have to figure out how to balance the raw, brute force power of artificial intelligence with actual, human critical thinking.
And that tension is exactly what we're exploring in today's deep dive. We're looking at a stack of notes on the rapidly evolving role of human translators versus machines. So, okay, let's unpack this. Our mission today is to figure out how you navigate this entirely new linguistic landscape without losing your data, your cultural nuances, or honestly, your professional identity.
Which is a lot to juggle.
It's a huge task.
Yeah.
And the sources we're looking at, they introduce this stark dichotomy that's emerging in the profession right now. They call it the divide between the AI lazies and the AI superhumans.
I love those terms. That categorization perfectly captures the behavioral split that's happening in offices everywhere right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some professionals, the AI lazies, are blindly relying on the machine's output. They feed the text in, copy the output, and just move on.
Just totally checking out.
Exactly. And over time, their own linguistic muscles, their editorial instincts, they just completely atrophy.
Like not going to the gym.
Right. On the other side, you have the AI superhumans. These are the folks using the AI to dramatically amplify their capabilities. They aren't letting the machine replace them. They treat it like a cognitive exoskeleton.
A cognitive exoskeleton. I like that.
When the barrier to generating text drops to near zero, the actual value of a worker is no longer in the generation itself. The value moves entirely to curation, to editing, and strategic direction.
My mind immediately goes to the invention of the calculator.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
Right, because when the calculator became ubiquitous, there was massive panic about the loss of basic arithmetic skills.
People thought we'd forget how to do math entirely.
Exactly. But we didn't become math lazies. We just stopped doing long division on paper and started doing, higher level calculus. We shifted our cognitive load.
We moved up the chain.
Yeah. But see, language feels fundamentally different than math to me. I mean, math is universal. A 2 and a 2 always make a 4, whether you are in Tokyo, Buenos Aires, or London.
That's very true.
But language is intrinsically tied to culture, emotion, identity. The words we choose signal our values. So outsourcing our words to a machine, I don't know, it seems to risk a much deeper, more dangerous kind of laziness than just skipping long division.
Well, what's fascinating here is that your hesitation points directly to why becoming an AI superhuman in translation or writing requires such immense active critical thinking.
How so?
Because if you just accept the output, you are allowing a generalized machine to strip away the specific identity embedded in the text. The superhuman approach isn't about the speed of generating a document. It's about steering the machine's immense computational power. It means looking at the generated text, recognizing that while it might be grammatically pristine, it completely misses the cultural subtext or, the emotional weight of the original, and then manually intervening.
So you really have to get in there and wrestle with it.
You are actively wrestling with the machine's output. The cognitive load hasn't disappeared. It has just shifted from drafting from scratch to aggressively evaluating and correcting.
But see, holding the steering wheel only matters if you actually own the car.
Oh, that's a very good point.
Because if your company forces you to use a specific corporate-mandated AI, you aren't really steering anymore. And this moves us from personal identity to, systemic control. The notes dive deeply into this concept of the big boss's machine, which honestly sounds like a dystopian nightmare, but is a very real corporate reality right now.
It really is. I mean, what happens when a corporation mandates the use of a specific centralized AI model for all internal translation and communication?
Right? Everyone has to use the same tool.
When the big boss's machine is imposed on the worker, sovereignty and ethics immediately shift away from the individual. The employee is no longer in control of the tools of their trade, and more importantly, they are no longer in control of where the data goes.
Right, because it's not their machine.
Exactly. If you are using a centralized, cloud-based AI model, your data is being processed on external servers you do not control.
Now, I thought enterprise cloud providers encrypted everything, but the sources raise serious questions about information privacy and data security. I mean, if every single document, every contract, every internal memo is being fed into these massive models, are we just unknowingly surrendering all of our proprietary data?
It's a huge concern because encryption in transit is different from how the model actually processes your text.
Okay, break that down for me.
Well, when you feed a highly sensitive merger document into a public, centralized AI to be translated, the text has to be processed by the model's neural network. Depending on the terms of service of the boss's machine, that data might be used to train future iterations of the model.
Wait, really? So it learns from my secret contract?
It absolutely can, and this fundamentally compromises data security. This vulnerability is why the sources emphatically suggest evaluating and adopting local edge running models.
Okay, so let's break down the mechanics of an edge running model, because that term gets thrown around a lot. How does it physically give you your sovereignty back compared to the cloud?
Think of a centralized cloud AI, like taking your private, highly sensitive diary, walking into a massive public library, and handing it to an archivist behind a desk.
Okay, feels risky already.
Right. That archivist reads it, translates it, hands you back the translation, but also files a copy of your original diary away in their massive basement for future reference.
Yeah, I definitely don't want that.
Exactly. Edge computing changes the location of the processing. It happens on the edge of the network, meaning right there on your local device.
So you are downloading the actual neural network weights to your own silicon. Like my laptop's GPU is doing the matrix multiplications.
Precisely. You download the AI model itself, and it runs locally. It can be completely air-gapped from the internet if you want.
Oh, wow.
The data never leaves your device. There are no API calls to a server. It restores information privacy and wrests control back from centralized tech giants because the processing happens entirely within your own secure physical environment.
Okay, so that solves the data leak issue, which is great. But keeping the data on device doesn't solve the quality of the intelligence itself.
That is very true.
If we are pouring resources into edge computing, we have to look at the actual output of these models. According to our notes, there's a really dangerous paradox here. Speed and fluency do not guarantee accuracy.
They definitely do not.
These models sound incredibly smooth, which makes them sound authoritative, even when they are fundamentally entirely wrong.
The psychological trap here is profound. I mean, if a human translator gives you a rough translation with clunky grammar, your guard immediately goes up.
Totally. Let me double-check it, everything.
Exactly. You scrutinize the facts because the presentation is flawed. An AI, however, is designed as a predictive text engine. It is mathematically optimized to predict the next most logical sequence of tokens, or words, to create a highly fluent sentence.
So it's just really good at sounding good.
Yes. So it gives you a beautifully structured, grammatically flawless paragraph, and your brain naturally, almost subconsciously, assumes the underlying facts must also be correct because the delivery is so incredibly confident.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It reminds me of a wildly overconfident tourist.
No, I like this.
Imagine you're lost in a foreign city, right?
Mm.
And you ask someone for directions to the museum. They turn to you in a perfect accent, with absolute confidence and a charming smile. They tell you to, take a left, go down 3 blocks, and take the train.
Sounds perfectly reasonable.
Yeah. So you do it, and you end up at a sewage treatment plant.
Oh.
The tourist had no idea where the museum was, but they wanted to complete the conversational circuit. They didn't want to admit they didn't know, so they just confidently strung together the most likely sounding directions based on a vague map they saw once.
That is the mechanical reality of an AI hallucination perfectly described. The model doesn't know facts, it just maps the statistical likelihood of word clusters.
It's just guessing.
Right. If it doesn't have the exact answer, it just mathematically strings together the most probable tokens to close the loop, wrapping a hallucination in a veneer of perfect fluency. And the sources highlight that this isn't just about random factual errors.
There's more.
Yeah, there is a massive inherent structural flaw in how these models are built. They are overwhelmingly English-centric.
Because they are trained on the open internet.
Exactly.
The bulk of the internet's training data, the sheer volume of text scraped to build these models, is in English. I think something like 60% of the top websites are in English, while a language with millions of speakers might represent less than a fraction of a percent of the training data.
And that disparity in training data means the model's entire latent space, the underlying structural framework of its logic, is fundamentally Anglo-Saxon.
Okay.
So when the AI processes a prompt, it is often mapping non-English concepts through an English-centric architecture before outputting it back into the target language.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this bias has massive implications for global business and local marketing, right?
Huge implications.
The notes explicitly call out that this makes local marketing incredibly difficult. Good marketing relies on cultural resonance. It's local idioms, shared cultural touchstones, specific regional humor. If the model is wired with an English-centric logic, it flattens those nuances out. It forces everything into its dominant framework.
Think about it this way. If a marketer is trying to sell a product in Japan or Turkey and uses an AI to localize the campaign, the AI might translate the literal words perfectly.
Here, the vocabulary is right.
But the underlying emotional appeal, the cadence of the pitch, will feel oddly American or British. The local flavor is entirely lost.
It's like trying to cook a complex, traditional, regional dish.
Yeah.
But the AI keeps substituting every distinct spice with ketchup and mayonnaise, because those are the most heavily represented condiments in its database.
Yes. A fluent translation is not necessarily an effective one if it tastes like mayonnaise when it should taste like saffron.
Okay, so we have an overconfident, hallucinating tourist trying to put mayonnaise on everything.
That's quite the image.
It really is. But if AI is this biased and prone to confident errors, why did translators abandon the older technology? Because the translation industry has used software for decades. I mean, this isn't their first rodeo with automation.
Well, the thing is, they haven't abandoned the older technology at all.
Oh, they haven't.
Not at all. The contrast between traditional seat tools and modern multimodal AI is central to understanding the current landscape. SEAT stands for Computer-Assisted Translation, and these tools have been the industry standard for a long time. The defining characteristic of a SEAT tool is that it is deterministic.
Deterministic meaning it operates on strict, predictable rules rather than statistical probabilities like the AI.
Exactly. CA tools primarily rely on translation memories. It operates like a massive, highly specific database.
Okay.
If a human translator translates a specific liability clause in a legal contract today, the CA tool saves that exact sentence pair. 5 years from now, if that exact same clause appears in a new contract, the CA tool will retrieve and suggest that exact same translation.
So it's very rigorous.
Highly predictable, rule-based, and anchored entirely in human-verified past work. If A is found in the database, output B.
Got it. It only knows what you have explicitly taught it. It can't hallucinate because it literally doesn't guess.
Exactly. Now bring multimodal AI into the mix. This shatters the deterministic model entirely. Multimodal AI incorporates text, images, sound, and the broader context of the entire document simultaneously.
It's taking in everything all at once.
Right. And it generates language based on probabilistic fluidity. It's guessing what the next best token should be based on billions of parameters, rather than pulling a verified string from a closed memory bank.
But wait, if AI fluency is just an illusion of competence and it struggles with factual accuracy, shouldn't we prefer the deterministic nature of CI tools for everything? I mean, if I'm a patient needing a medical document translated or a lawyer handling a high-stakes corporate merger, I don't want probabilistic fluidity. I want deterministic precision. I want the exact verified rule.
And that need for absolute precision is exactly why CI tools remain essential in high-stakes environments. You're absolutely right.
It's time to work together.
Yes, the multimodal AI introduces vast context and can handle creative, highly variable, or entirely unseen text beautifully. It is unparalleled for rapid synthesis and broad comprehension.
Right.
But the CI tool provides the rigid, legally sound guardrails. You use the fluidity of AI when you need to understand the broad strokes of a 500-page foreign market report in 3 seconds.
Okay, that makes sense.
And you use the determinism of C tools when you are finalizing the localized medical dosing instructions for a pharmaceutical launch. They are two very different tools for two very different jobs.
Okay, let me synthesize this because we are dealing with a lot. We have powerful but English-biased AI that hallucinates. We have reliable but rigid CT tools. We have a looming threat to data privacy from the boss's machine, which we can mitigate by using local edge computing.
Yep, that's the landscape.
With all of these competing forces and overlapping tools, how do you navigate this tomorrow at work? How do we teach the next generation or even ourselves to survive this environment?
The sources converge on a massive call for radical transparency in both the classroom and the workplace.
Radical transparency.
Yes. For a long time, there was an instinct to treat AI like a dirty little secret. Institutions tried to ban it, treating its use as a form of cheating or laziness.
Oh yeah, the early days of generative AI were all about policing it.
Exactly. But the sources argue the opposite. AI and CCAT tools must be used continuously, but the golden rule that must be adopted everywhere is disclosure.
Right. So think about your next team meeting. Instead of hiding the fact that you used an AI to draft the quarterly localization report, you start the meeting by openly stating your workflow.
You lay it all out.
You share what tool you used and why. Like, hey, I used a local edge model to rapidly synthesize the raw data because I needed the speed and privacy, but then I ran the terminology through our deterministic cat tool to verify the legal jargon, and finally I manually rewrote the marketing hooks because the AI flattened the cultural nuance.
Exactly. You are showing your work, detailing the exact cognitive load you applied to the process.
Like showing your work in a math class, rather than just writing down the final answer.
Perfect analogy.
But this raises an important question. How exactly does a teacher or a manager enforce this kind of transparency without acting like a surveillance state?
Well, transparency isn't about policing or surveillance by a manager. It's about collaborative literacy.
Collaborative literacy.
The tools are evolving so rapidly that no single person can possibly understand all the blind spots, all the hallucinations, or all the biases of a given model. When you share the what and the why of your workflow, you contribute to a shared pool of knowledge.
So like one translator on the team figures out that a specific model hallucinates financial terms, and they flag it for everyone.
Right.
Another figures out a specific prompting technique to bypass the English-centric bias for a regional dialect, and they share that.
Exactly. By openly discussing these workflows, you elevate the entire group. Radical transparency is the mechanism that transforms an office full of isolated, potential AI lazies into a team of collaborative AI superhumans.
You map the machine's weaknesses together.
You do. It takes the existential dread of being replaced and turns it into a collective effort to pilot the technology safely.
We've covered incredible ground today. We started with the existential threat of the machine and the choice to either let our linguistic skills atrophy or step up to steer the ship.
We covered a lot, yeah.
We navigated the battle for data privacy against corporate mandates and saw how edge computing keeps our information sovereign. We uncovered the hidden mayonnaise-heavy biases of these fluid hallucinating models and why the rigid reliability of CA tools is still crucial.
The mayonnaise is going to stick with me.
It's so visceral. And finally, we arrived at the solution of dropping the stigma and embracing radical, continuous transparency and how we use these tools together.
It is a massive paradigm shift, navigating the friction between artificial intelligence and artificial language.
It really is. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We've spent this entire deep dive talking about how we must adapt our tools to translate external languages. How we manage the corporate data, the structural biases, and the hallucinated output.
Right.
But as we spend more and more of our daily lives consuming the highly fluent, probabilistically generated artificial language produced by these machines, will the cadence and structure of our own internal human thoughts begin to shift?
That is a chilling thought.
As we constantly read text optimized by an English-centric algorithm predicting the next most logical token, are we just translating the world, or is the machine slowly translating us?